How appropriate. Today's talk title is called There's Only One Life. And it is the theme that is being spoken about and taught in every CSL across the world today. And what you just heard lyrically is actually an affirmation written by our founder, Ernest Holmes. That affirmation, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now, was pointed out to us a couple of years ago by Dr. Edward Viljoen from the Santa Rosa Center for Spiritual Living when he was here. And he said the tonality, the vibration of that, and the syncopation and the rhythm of that is one of the most similar syncopations and rhythms to traditional Muslim chants and Hindu chants and Buddhist chants. And that it falls into that beautiful rhythm whereby cellularly you just sort of feel yourself going into this automatic reset. I wish I could transport you with me to Cambodia, because you can be walking through a lot of the temples and you will start to hear the chanting off in the background. And there's something so mesmerizing about that. It makes you stop in your tracks and you just have to listen. And in the listening of that melodic and that intonation and that message and that vibration, that something begins to come back alive within you. So take the musicality of that, the vibration of that, and now combine it with the message and the intention of those words and what is actually transpiring. It's quite powerful. Ernest Holmes wrote that there is only one life. What does that mean? Well, obviously, it does not mean that there's only one woman or one man standing left on the planet, and that's the one life that we're literally talking about. What he's talking about and what he's describing is that, for example, the tree that is in front of the building out there, there is life in that tree. And in the natural life essence, or the force of that life, which is exhibiting itself through all that tree does, is the same force and the same life that's being exhibited and displayed within the grass that's adjacent to that. It's the same force that is found within the intelligence of the person who designed the machinery and the mechanics that wove the cushion on the chair that you're sitting in, and wove the fabric of the clothes that you are wearing, and weaved the fibers within the carpet that's on the floor. It's the same intelligence and the same force that initially crafted and created the very first brick that went into the construction of a physical building. And that same force and that same dynamic in its ripple effect is in the brick of this building. It's the same life force that exists within your ability to breathe right now in this moment. You are not sitting there. You are not sitting there going, breathe, breathe, breathe. You are not telling your heart, pump, pump, pump. It is doing all of those things automatically in its innate natural intelligence. It is the life force that connects the symbiosis between all of your circulatory system and your cells and your organs and your tissues to make up this thing, this beautiful thing called your human construction. There's only one life. So that same force which is in existence in the tree in the front, is the same force that is in existence in all trees, which is in existence in all of nature, which is in existence in all of life, and we get to, through deductive reasoning, is the same existence that is in you. It doesn't need to be micromanaged. It doesn't need to go to a workshop to understand how to do it. It's just there. That one life. So, are you in agreement with that first statement, there's only one life? That which is the innate activity of the energy, the pulsation, and the rhythm of life that's found within the chant, that's found within the word, but is also found within the very breath of your being. So repeat after me, there is only one life. And so the next sentence says that life is God's life. Well, we've talked long and hard and at length, and there are many new people here about what is God. God in mental science or in philosophy or ancient wisdom is not a deity. God is that force. God is that energy. God is the very directive behind all sentient life. So when we understand that God is the all, it is all of creation, God is your passion, God is your mind, God is the intellect, God is the creativity, God is that force, God is everything in and through all. It is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Love the omni. Next child you have, name it Omni. Next dog or cat you get, name it Omni. So that when you see that child or that pet, you go, Omni, and you are reminded that the all is God. Or change your name to Omni. Whatever you need. That life then is the omnipotence of all of life. And again, what does that mean? That means then that the all is you. You are absorbed in that. You are not exclusively that, but you are absorbed in your totality in that. That life, there's only one life. That life is God's life. Say, that life is God's life.
That life is God's life.
It cannot be anything else. You say this, I say that. So, the next line is, that life is perfect. And that's where we go, what are you talking about, Willis? That's where we stop for a moment. That life is perfect. I love the way that our founder, Ernest Holmes, explains this. He says, in the cosmology of our world, in this universe, there exists, there can only be a perfect patterning. A perfect patterning. There can only be unity. Because you can't have two unities, you can't have two whole entities, you can only have one unity. And so as we look at the cosmology of our universe, of our worlds, there is a perfect patterning, a perfect symbiosis that exists within that, and it cannot be anything else. Therefore, everything that is a part of that, which is the universe, must be perfect. Again, going back down to you. The individuated expression of that divine nature, you. That means that you too, in your innate sense, is also perfect. Now, we do a lot to mask that and to oppress that and to remove ourselves in our forgetfulness of that. But regardless of how great lengths that you go to in order to deny that, it is still there. And then the last line, that life then, all of that which we just described, the force itself, that life is my life. This is where you take ownership of this mantra. That life is my life, not when I get my act together, not when the kids move out, not when I get a divorce, not when everything works in alignment, not when I'm out of debt, not when I feel better, but that life is my life now. Even when I'm not aware of it, it's still my life. Even when all that I can see is the cloud above me, that does not deprive or diminish the fact that there's an entire galaxy beyond that cloud. And so when you look at the totality then of those words, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and that life is my life now. I cannot think of anything more powerful for you to devote yourself to in aligning yourself back to your truth. Sing it, speak it, dance it, be it, tattoo it, do whatever it is that you need to do in order to remind yourself of that. That force, you know, it's amazing in Star Wars, they say, may the force be with you. But you know, the force is already with you. So it could be, may you recognize the force that is already with you. But that's too much dialogue. So they had to, bring it back. So long ago, when Ernest Holmes in the Los Angeles area was giving lectures, this is called from the Beverly Hills Lectures, 90210. He spoke this. He said, suppose that each one of us goes out into an unknown country and works an acre of land. There are 250 acres, and each one will take an acre in the same land. There are not 250 different kinds of creative processes in the soil. There is only one kind of creative process common to the 250 acres. But we are people, so each one plants his plot the way that he likes it. Then everything is different when it comes up, and people who see it say, here are 250 individual acres of land. There's no such thing. There are 250 individual plots of one creativity operating through the same soil. Now, we know tried and true the cliche about the story of the seed and your thoughts are your seeds and what seed you plant. But have you ever really stopped to think about the fact that there is a commonality between that soil? There is a commonality between that force. And so when I have these particular life harvest, and I'm not very fond of my harvest, or I don't like the way in which the crop came up, the crop of effect, then again, it is ludicrous for me to point fingers at something outside of myself and say, you did that to my harvest. You're the one who didn't do this and this and this. When all along, when we go back to the creative process, it has its origin in the intentionality of the thought by which we put into that common soil. Common soil, what does that mean? That means that the person that you absolutely love, the person that is your hero or your shero, they planted a seed in the same soil that you have access to. Same soil that you have access to. And I'm sure you've heard that before, but at what point do we actually get it? When we stop looking at something and coveting what our neighbor has, thinking that they have taken it. I always loved this exercise where I would have people define what success was for them, because that changes, just like the varying seeds that we plant. But when you get a clue of what success feels like and looks like for you, then watch for it. And when you see it, go, that has my name all over it. That has my name all over it. Not, you took it, so I can't have it, but it's like if somebody else can plant a seed that is the predominant prototype of my success, that teaches me it's possible. So I go, that too is of God, that too is for me, and I claim it as my own. Yes, I'll take some of that. When I see the kind of physicality and wholeness that to me is what I strive for, instead of becoming jealous or becoming catty or defensive or feeling diminished myself because I see that and I think that I can't, that prototype is telling me that it's possible. And it's not belonging to just one individual. When I see two individuals out there expressing love for one another, and they're like going, oh, and you're like, get a room. But in your heart of hearts, that's exactly what you want. In my judgment of that, or in my making that wrong, what I'm not being willing to see is that what is available for one is available for all. And I get to go, that has my name all over it. This too is of God, this too is for good, and this too is my blessing. And you start to see then the fact that it does boil down to the old cliche of what seeds am I planting? And realizing that if there is only one life, if there is only one creative process germinating soil, it's going, what are you going to put in here? And we have one or the other kind of a relationship with that soil. One is I'm either being buried or I'm being planted. And that's your perception. You know, we've all been there where I'm being buried in this. I'm being buried by life. The pressure is just too much. It's this weight and this burden that we, in our mind, perceive is being done to us. when in point of fact, you have the opportunity to change the lens of that perception and saying, no, I'm being planted. This is very mysterious. It's very dark. This is very uncomfortable. I don't like this, but I could breathe and I could say, this is very mysterious. This must be leading me to a cutting-edge sensibility that is beyond my comfort zone, and that is always a good thing. That is always a good thing. How am I going to know that there is only one life unless I go explore what that one life actually means? Do you get that that one life has no boundaries? Do you get that that one life is predicated upon your level of self-awareness? If you don't go out and meet life, then you will have a very myopic, small, comfortable experience of that. And you, I guarantee you, will always be going back to the idea of being buried rather than being planted. Again, the responsibility is ours. And so spirit shows up. Spirit, God, intelligence, life itself. It shows up through the process in all people, in all beings, and in all life. It's a common process. So it is obviously very imperative and important that you and I gain awareness of the fact of what it is that we're planting. What kind of oppositional seed have I become so accustomed to that I'm blinded by the fact that I'm still holding others responsible for the quality of my life? Or what kind of invitational, intentional seed am I planting so that I'm constantly hyper aware of the good that is wanting to come my way? My mother used to call me impetuous. And I don't think it was a term of endearment from her. And I love that I was impetuous. Because to me, that was whenever I got an idea, I would go and I'd try it. And I would often fail, but at least I would try. And there were more times in the trying of that and opening myself up to new ideas that I began to get a grasp of what is possible or what was beyond my upbringing. But if I always stayed within the confines and the box of what everybody else thought I should, if I didn't celebrate and learn to celebrate failure, then I would never know what true success is. I loved how Oprah used to say, I never knew what an authentic yes was until I learned how to say no. I never knew what a true, authentic feeling of success was until I was comfortable enough to fail. So one of our own Atlanteans, great story. She was a young girl who grew up with a dad who would bring her and her other siblings together, and he would say, tell me how you failed this week. What? Tell me how you failed this week. Because what he was grooming them for was not to be ashamed of their failure, to at least pick themselves up and try something. And so with that kind of open, wide consciousness and sensibility within that dynamic, it wasn't something that she feared, and she wasn't modeling her life and her decisions and her curiosity around what other people would think. I would tell you it's never too late to start that. And so the story was that she was getting ready for a party, and she realized she didn't have the right kind of underwear with her outfit. And she had, those unseemly panty lines within the very tight pants that she was wearing. So what she did was that she began to cut pieces of it. She cut the foot out. She cut all of these varying things. And then when she pulled all of this on, she really liked the way the firm fit looked. And she went, She took all of the money that she had, which was $5,000, and as the story goes, she developed and cultivated out of her own apartment Spanx. Now probably Jesus wears Spanx. I mean, everybody's wearing Spanx. Everybody's got a pair of Spanx, right? So while she's operating this production line out of her apartment, the phone rings, and it's Oprah. And Oprah has picked her product to be one of her favorite things that she used to showcase when she had that show. And the rest is history. She's never gone public. She's never had to ask for investors. She has no debt. She owns it privately. And now it's worth more than billions of dollars. But you see, when you think about that, her name is Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely has the same soil that you have. The creative process that exists within her mind, which isn't afraid of failing, is the same creative process that you have. What was the original line? There's only one life. There's only one creative force. It's whether or not you and I are paying attention to it. Or if we're too dogged down by the fact that, somebody said you're too impetuous and you're too this and you're too that. And so we're trying to conform. I would much rather go out of this life having offended a lot of people and staying true to what it is that I have believed in, rather than shrinking my belief in order to fit in. Because if there's only one life, and that life is God's life, that is the universal life, that life is perfect, and that life is my life now, it is screaming at you and I to say, wake up. Here I am. Cut those feet out of your pantyhose and we'll all look good. And so Ernest Holmes also wrote that the stream flows around and through us, but the Spirit cannot drink for us. The stream flows in and through us. The stream being that creative process, that divine urge, that omnipotence, that all power, all spirit, all intelligence. It flows through us. It flows through us. But we are the ones from time to time who put up the blockage. We are the ones who resist. We are the ones who say no. We are the ones who deflect. We are the ones who find that so scary sometimes that we run back to our fence of familiarity. But I love nature. I love how the fact that in nature, as water is cascading down and it comes to some kind of blockage, it doesn't just stop and go, wow, that's the end of the road. Can't make it down. What does that water do? It just goes right around whatever that branch, whatever that boulder, whatever that blockage is. How do you and I do that? Do we become so frozen by the first piece of resistance? Do we become so frozen and blocked by the first stagnation or the first person who says, I don't like that? Do we become so stopped by that we negate the life force and the life that is in us that wants to have a bigger expression by your individuality? We could all take a lesson then from nature and allow ourselves to be able to do that. And so we see often how people stood up for what it was that they believed. Ernest Holmes said that life calls you to know more. K-N-O-W. Life calls you to know more. To know more. I used to be in this relationship with this Mexican-American guy, and we would go often to visit his family in Matamoros. And, in that culture, all of the aunts are called Tia something. And so she was Tia Elma, and Tia Elma was 90 years old. Every single time we would go, she would be dressed to the nines. She had her pearls on, and she had her little outfit on, and her lipstick on. And every time we would go to Matamoros, and I would sit down with Tia Elma, she would look at me and she would say, tell me something I don't know. I loved that. Usually at 90, they're saying, I don't have room to hear anything else. But Tia Elma said, tell me something I don't know. Are you willing to surround yourself by people who you think are better than you? Are you willing to surround yourself by talent and by consciousness and by expansion and by people who are impetuous enough to bring and draw out of you something greater? so that you get to learn more about you than you thought? Or have you gotten to that place where you say, I know what that already? Ernest Holmes said that the most dangerous words in the English language were, I know that already. And that's where the idea of being open at the top came from. Can we, into our years of longevity, go, tell me what I don't know? Let me sit at the feet of masters who are both children, middle-aged, older. Let me sit at the feet of whoever it is that has information that resonates with my heart so that I can be open enough and receptive enough to be able to receive and to glean that and to know. Life calls you to know more. Where have you stopped your curiosity? If there's only one life, and that life is God's life, do you get that that life does not stop? That there is an eternality to that? And that in this particular human life, we also don't stop learning and growing and reaping and gathering and expanding and evolving in consciousness. I can see it now. I will be in a classroom signing up for something when I'm well into my 90s. By 100, I will have known it all, but by then, I will still be in class. And so to have such conviction in the fact that your dreams and your passions matter, that you end up becoming like that Pakistani teenager, Malala, I am Malala, where she was boarding the bus in Pakistan, and the Taliban came and they actually called her out by name and forced her to get off of the bus because she had been so vocal about the fact that she thought that girls should have the same educational rights as boys in Pakistan. And she wouldn't shut up about it. And the Taliban ordered her off of the bus and stuck a gun in her face and asked her to rescind that. And she, in her 16-year-old body, said no. And they shot her in the face. And the bullet, thankfully, missed her brain. But in her recovery time, and in her regaining strength, and in her evolving consciousness, did that message ever waver? Absolutely not. And the brilliant thing about Malala is that she didn't say, God, I wish that that hadn't happened. She didn't say, I hate the Taliban. She said, isn't it wonderful that this happened, because now my passion and conviction is being heard and being implemented around the world. Something that was just sequestered inside of me and being vocal in my little pocket, my little myopic world in this village in Pakistan, is now being heard by everyone. And there is a rallying cry for equal education for girls, because she stood there and she said, no, I'm not going to rescind that. And so when whatever it is that sticks that oppressive nature in our face and says, you are not that, your response is supposed to be, there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and it's my life now. And how dare you tell me to rescind my passion and my creativity? Do you get how the creative process celebrates that? The genius in that germination, in that soil, hungers and craves for co-creation. Do you know what co-creation means? It's your willingness. Co-creation is standing on tiptoe going, you going to come with me? You're going to ride with me? You're going to do this with me? You're going to expand with me? You're going to evolve with me? Because we're going to use you if you're willing. But if you're going to be buried and go, I don't like this, instead of being planted, then in that co-creative process, there's some juice and some amazing stuff that can be there. Stop waiting to have it all figured out before you take the first step. Stop waiting for external permission. Say yes to yourself. And yes, it's uncomfortable. And yes, sometimes it means that you have to walk away from situations that have bound you and people that have bound you. It's not your job to convince. It's your job to stand true in the knowledge and the awareness of the power of the fact that you are a part of the one life. That's it. That's your job. What I love about this philosophy is it's not proselytory. We're not saving anybody because technically no one needs to be saved. Everybody's operating at the level of their own self-awareness. But if I become so invested in, I've got to convince you, that's just a stall tactic. That's just a very crafty way for my ego to say, we're not going to work on us, we're going to work on you. The best that I get to be is to stand in my own truth and in my own power. And Malala goes on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And so does the man whose birthday falls on this weekend, also a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And then the idea that life calls you to know more. Martin Luther King Jr. said, actually, time itself is neutral. Human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts of men willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. Just saying time is there, but the evolution of consciousness is dependent upon the co-creation process. It's dependent upon you and I standing up and saying yes to that. So repeat after me, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And so it is. Thank you. I'm going to call up our own Penelope Williams. It's true, Penelope, come on up. That song that they sang is actually on their first CD, right?
It is.
So if you wanted to practice that as your own mantra, get that CD. How clever was that?
Yes, indeed.
The product tie-in. So the choir has that first CD, and Penelope's going to lead us in our Grateful Giving.
Thank you, Reverend David. What a wonderful message. I'm in the right place with the right people doing the right thing. I love being here with you. And that's a song, but I won't go there. I do. I love being here. I love growing here with each of you, and we have grown together so well. We fit so well together. I'm so glad that you're here, and I would like you to affirm with me as the choir's coming in, and Ty Andrews will lead them, our affirmative grateful giving. Shall we say that together? I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and I joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. Please welcome again the Sound of Light Choir under the leadership of Ty Andrews.
Thank you, Penelope. Thank you, Reverend David, for that beautiful talk. And thank you. This is our first performance of the season, as you know. We're so grateful to be in service of Song 3 for you. We've got so many great things. I want to acknowledge our band. Give it up for the band. We got stellar musicians in here, you guys. All about expansion. So yes, as Penelope mentioned, we've got CDs coming. Fuji's working on a new album. Her proceeds are going to go toward David's project as well. See Fuji if you're interested and hear more about that. The next song we're going to do for you is Oyaheya by Ricky Byers Beckwith. In translation, it means praise the Spirit. Enjoy.
I am listening to the music of
Hi, I'm David Ault, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at slca.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.